Hello, this is Mr. Henry, and welcome to lesson 1.2. Today's lesson we are looking at the order of operations. So the essential question says, how do I use the order of operations to evaluate expressions? We have our three get the goofs here, so let's see how we do. The first one here says 12x when x is 2, so that means that this is a multiplication. So we should have 12 times 2. And then when you multiply 12 times 2, you get 24, not 48. Number 2, down below, it says 8 times 3 plus 6. Well, we're learning about the order of operations today, but in case you didn't know, the first thing you would do is the multiply. 8 times 3 is 24. And then when you add 6 to that, you'd get 30. And number 3, let's see, we would do 5 plus 10 first, which is 15. And then 15 minus 3 is 12. So that one was actually correct, although they didn't show any work. It was correct. We have one vocabulary word today. It is order of operations, but it's a big one. So the order of operations, the way most people remember it, is they remember that, the PEMDAS. Some people say PEMDAS, PEMDAS. My problem with this, writing it sideways like this, is it makes it look like you always do multiply before divide and adding before subtracting, which is not true. The order of operation is, yes, you do parentheses first, and then you do exponents. But multiplication and division are considered one step. So you do those two things as one item. You work from left to right. And the addition and subtraction are considered one step. You do all adds and subtracts in one step from left to right. Okay, well, I guess you don't do it as one step, but you think of those as one item. So it's parentheses, then exponents, then multiplies and divides, then adds and subtracts. So it's actually 4 steps, not like 6. So I like writing mine up and down like this. It makes it a bit easier for me. So when you're doing parentheses, you do the stuff on the inside of the parentheses. So for example, this is not an example of parentheses. There's no math to do in there. This is an example of parentheses because you can add 3 plus 2. So you do the stuff on the inside of the parentheses. Then you do exponents, which are the powers. So 4 to the 3rd power. You do that. Then you do all multiplies and divides from left to right. So whichever comes first in the problem. Then you do all adds and subtracts from left to right. So let's go ahead and see it. Letter A. Now here we have parentheses. So you do the math inside the parentheses first. Write down the rest of the problem. Then do your next step. There's only one step left to do. It's division. So we take 8 divided by 4 and we get 2. Letter B. Now here we have some parentheses. We also have these square brackets. The square brackets are just another set of parentheses. It's there to help you so you don't have something like 2 times 3 plus 4 minus 2, and you get all these curvy ones and you get yourself confused. So sometimes they use the curvy ones and sometimes they'll use the square ones just to help keep them separate so they look a little bit different. But let's see. So we're looking at the problem. So we have one set of parentheses here. Inside that set of parentheses, you still have to follow the order of operations. So inside that parentheses, we have another set of parentheses. Basically, the way it's going to work out is if you have, it's called nested parentheses. If you have one parenthesis inside of another, you do the inside one most first. So that one would be the first step we're going to do. So let's do that. 4 minus 2 is 2. And like you saw in the last problem, we didn't mention it, but when you do the math inside the parentheses, if it's just one number left over, you don't need the parentheses anymore. So this becomes that. It's quite a bit simpler. Now we still have parentheses. Let's do that math. This becomes that. Much simpler. And finally we get 10. when we multiply the 2 times the 5. All right, so you have 2 problems to try. Go ahead and do letters C and D right now. Okay, if you haven't finished doing those 2 problems yet, pause the video, work on your own, and let's go through them together though. So we've got 2 sets of parentheses here. So the way the order of operation works, if you have 2 things from the same step, you do the first one you see first. So this was the first one you come to because you read paper from left to right. So you do this one first. 5 minus 5 is 0. Then you do this one next. 3 minus 2 is 1. And 0 times 1 is 0. I guess I can leave that. And then letter D. Now this one does not look like parentheses. In fact, you don't even see parentheses. But they are technically there. The parentheses would be there if I'd write this sideways, like if I had to write this on a calculator or something like that. The way this would actually look is 10 plus 4 divided by 20 minus 13, with parentheses around the top and the bottom. So the way you actually do a problem like this, when you see math on the top and math on the bottom, is you treat the top and the bottom as 2 separate problems. So you do the math on the top, you get 14. You do the math on the bottom, you get 7. And now when you only have one number left on top and bottom, you can just do that math, and 14 divided by 7 is 2. And we'd be done. So you treat top and bottom separately, do the math top, do the math bottom, and then divide your answer. Okay? So that's dealing with parentheses. Next, let's look at exponents. So here you see we have 2 to the 3rd power plus 5. So we're going to do the exponent first, then we'll do the add. So 2 to the 3rd power. If you need to write it out, do it. 2 times 2 times 2. 2 times 2 is 4. 4 times 2 is 8. And then 8 plus 5 is 13. Letter B, 2 times 5 to the 4th power. Now, even though you see these parentheses, the 4 is still attached to the 5. This parentheses here is showing a multiplication between those 2. So if I wrote it out like this, you'd know, oh yeah, you do the exponent first. Well, even though it's written slightly different, this still says 2 times 5 to the 4th power. So we're going to do the 5 to the 4th power first. So 5 times 5 times 5 times 5. 5 times 5 is 25. 25 times 5 is 125. 125 times 5, I know it off the top of my head, is 625. 5 times 5 is 25. 5 times 2 is 10, 11, 12. Carry the 1. 5 times 1 is 5, plus 1 is 6. Still get 625. So we did this math here, got 625. But we still have to take that times by 2. So we're taking 2 times 625. And that's going to give us 1250, but watch this. 625 times 2. 2 times 5 is 10. 2 times 2 is 4, plus 1 is 5. 2 times 6 is 12. 1250. And we're done. So exponents, then multiplies, divides, adds, and subtracts. Letter C is just a little bit more complicated, but I still want you to follow those same steps. Do what's inside the parentheses first, but even inside the parentheses, you still have to follow the order of operations. Give letter C a try. If you get stuck, you don't understand where to start, hit play on the video, watch me do a step or so, just enough so you understand what's going on, and then I want you to pause the video again and finish the rest of the problem on your own. So go ahead, pause the video, and do letter C right now. Okay, so you should be done. Let's see how far you got. So you should have said, okay, I've got parentheses, so I have to do this stuff first. But inside of here, I've got exponents and I've got subtract. So we've got to do the exponent first. That's step number 1. So we're going to take 9, because that's 3 squared. 3 times 3 equals 9. Write down the rest of the problem. 9 minus 2, we're still inside the parentheses, is 7. And now that I only have one number left, you don't need parentheses. 17 minus 7 is 10. So now we've done parentheses, we've done exponents. We're going to do the adding, subtracting, multiplying, dividing kind of all as one example. We're just calling it the left to right rule. This is example 3. We're going to practice just working the left to right, because in example A, yes, we're going to do this add before subtract, but it's not always that. You don't always do addition before subtraction. You do whichever comes first from left to right. Here, that comes first. So we do that first. And then that comes next. We do that next. So adding and subtracting is one step. You think of it together. You do whichever comes first. Here, we've got a big long line of multiplies and divides. Think of it as one step. Multiplies and divides. So you do whichever comes first from left to right. So we're going to do that one first. We get 6. Divide by 6, divide by 1, times by 8. Now, we are not going to do this next multiply next. The rule says you work from left to right if you have multiplies or divides. If you have two things on the same step, you work from left to right. So we need to do this division next. 6 divided by 6 is 1. Still left to right. 1 divided by 1 is 1. And now finally we can do this multiply, and 1 times 8 is 8. Alright? So we worked from left to right because we had multiplies and divides in the same step. Now, your letter C, which I accidentally had up there a second ago, if you saw it, is going to have adds, subtracts, multiplies, divides all in one problem. Remember, when you have multiplies and divides, you do them from left to right. Only after you've done multiplies and divides do you do adding and subtracting. Go ahead and give letter C a try. Pause the video, do it on your own. When you're ready to continue, hit play, and we'll go through it together. Okay, so let's see here. The first thing you should have done would be that multiply. Because you see there's an add, there's a multiply, there's a subtract, there's a divide. Well, adding and subtracting are going to come later. You do multiplies and divides first, but you do whichever comes first from left to right. So this multiplies the first multiply or divide in the problem. So 3 times 6 is 18. Write down the rest of the problem. This is the only thing that changed, and it changed to an 18. Now, you have add, a subtract, and a divide. Well, divide comes before add and subtract, so you got to do that piece next. 9 divided by 3 is 2. Write down the rest of the problem. Now, that piece changed in 3. 9 divided by 3 is 3, not 2. Now we continue on. We have our add or our subtract. Well, you do those two things from left to right. So we're going to do this one first. That's 20. And 20 minus 3 is 17. All right. So now we've seen all of our steps individually. We've seen parentheses, we all saw exponents, we saw multiply, divide, left to right, add, subtract, left to right. Let's get a bunch of those all in one problem. So here you see we have parentheses, we have exponents, we've got adding, we've got subtracting. Now, let's go through and do this together. Now, I'm going to intentionally do this problem wrong, and I want you to see if you can figure out why or where I messed up, and then we're going to do it correct. So don't copy this down. This is wrong. I'm using red marker, wrong, don't copy, watch, and think about where I'm messing up. So I'm looking at my problem. Okay, so I've got 4 plus 5 minus 1. Okay, so I've got parentheses, and I've got exponents, so I'm going to do that first. This squared, 1 squared is 1. And then 4 plus that, and then we get 6 plus 4 is 10. Where did I mess up in that problem? Think about the order of operations. Think about your steps. The step I messed up on was actually the very first one. You don't do exponents before parentheses. I've got math inside here I could do, so I should be doing that first. So now let's do it correctly. That is the correct first step. We get 6. 6 squared, 6 times 6, is 36. And 4 plus 36 is 40. So we did parentheses, then exponents, and then add. Letter B. Okay, I've got parentheses here, exponents, add, subtract, multiply. All right, so we've got to do the parentheses first. Now I've got 2 of them. So you do the first one in the problem first. You do that one first. So we've got 12 minus 1 is 11. Write down the rest of the problem. I'm going to need a little bit more space for this one, I can tell. 4 times 2, because this is my next set of parentheses, that is 8. And now we've got subtract, add, exponent. Exponent comes next. 9 squared is 81. 9 times 9 is 81. Now I've got subtract and add. Hopefully you understand why I'm doing the subtract first. You do not always add before subtract. You do whichever comes first. In this problem, the subtract comes before the add, so you subtract first. And then when you add 3 plus 81, you get 84. If you made a mistake here, if you did this addition first, do it over here, you'd get 11 minus 89, and 11 minus 89 is a negative 78. So this is wrong. What's in blue is correct. You work from left to right when you have 2 things that are on the same step. Like 2 parentheses, do the left one first. 2 exponents, you do the left one first. Multiply or divide, left one first. Add, subtract, left one first. Please do letter C. Pause the video, do it on your own. When you're ready to continue, hit play, and we'll go through it together. All right, so you should be done, so let's do it. Parentheses. We do the stuff on the inside. That gives us 2. Squared minus 5 times 2 minus 3. All right, so we wrote down the rest of the problem. Exponents looks like the next thing I see. We have no more parentheses. Exponents. 4. Write down the rest of the problem. All right, so I have no parentheses. I have no exponents. Multiplies and divides. Yep, there's the only one I've got like that. That gives me 10. No parentheses, no exponents, no more multiplies or divides. Adding and subtracting, well, yeah, I've got subtraction. Left one first. 3 minus 10, which you guys had some of these guys last year in pre-algebra. This is a little tricksy little challenge. If you remembered, 3 minus 10 actually gives you a negative 7. Yes, you'll be doing a lot with negatives this year. But this one's just kind of thrown in there just as a review refresher. See if you got it. And negative 7 minus 4, do you remember? It's a negative 11. Now, if you got up to here and then you made the mistake and you said that's just 7 minus 4 and you got the answer of 3, I'm not upset. We have not talked about negatives yet this year. You have talked about them in the past. So I wanted to throw in a little problem here just to see if you would remember about them. If you got 3, hey, I'm fine with that. If you got negative 11, awesome, good job. You got your head in the game. Now, the last thing that we have here are some problems out of the textbook. So these come from pages 8 and 9, numbers 1 through 10. So I have them here on the board. I would like you to pause the video, do them on your own. When you're ready to continue, hit play, and then we'll go through them together. Okay, you should be done. So let's check them. Number 1. So we're going to evaluate these guys. Okay, so exponent first. In fact, I'm going to move this down. I'm going to need more space, I can tell. Probably not that much, but I'll need more. So evaluate that. So 4 squared is 16, because that's 4 times 4. And then 20 minus 16 is 4. Okay, number 2. Exponent first. So 3 squared, 3 times 3 is 9. Write down the rest of the problem. Multiply or add. Multiply first. That gives us 18. And then 18 plus 4 is 22. Number 3, 2 cubed, 2 to the third power is 8. 2 times 2 is 4, times 2 more is 8. We've got a multiply or an add. Divide. That's a divide. Divide comes before add. My brain's clearly not working today. But 32 divided by 8 is 4. 6, not 4. And 4 plus 6 is 10. Number 4, add, exponent, subtract. Exponent at first. 6 times 6 is 36. Add or subtract. Left one first. 15 plus 36 is 40, 51. I was adding in my head. 51. And then 51 minus 4 is 40. I was going to say 47. Is that right? Yes, it is. 47. All right. And now let's look at these next couple. We'll need more space. All right, number 5, evaluate the expression. All right, so we're evaluating some more. Sweet. We've got parentheses, so I'm just going to write the problem down. 4 times 3 plus 9, which, by the way, that's what it says. 4 times 3 plus 9. That is a multiplication right there. So you do the exponent first. I'm sorry, the inside the parentheses first. So 3 plus 9 is 12. And then 4 times 12 is 48. That's number 5. Number 6. Inside the parentheses first. Now, inside the parentheses, I have 2 things. I've got a subtract or an exponent. Exponent first. Now, still inside parentheses, we've got to subtract this guy. And that is a multiplication. 3 times 4 is 12. Number 7, a bit longer. So we've got those square brackets, the parentheses divided by 4. Their problem looks a little bit neater than mine, but I still see I've got parentheses inside parentheses, so I do the inside one first. 9 plus 3 is 12. Because this answer was just a number, you can drop the parentheses because it's not being multiplied by anything. 12 divided by 4 is 3. Now here I am still going to leave the brackets because this is a multiplication. It says 2 times this stuff. If I drop the parentheses, it looks like that. It looks like my number's 23, but it's not. It's 2 times that stuff, which 2 times 3 is 6. So sometimes you keep them, sometimes you don't. It's really a practice thing. You'll see as you get more familiar. So if you're multiplying, keep the parentheses. If the number, like in this case, the 9 plus 3 was 12, and that 12 is not being multiplied by anything, you can drop the parentheses. All right, I'm going to erase all of that to do numbers 8 through 10, so make sure you got it because it's going away. And numbers 8 through 10. Number 8. We get to substitute. So y is equal to 8. So I start by substituting to get rid of my letter. Now we math it up. So 8 squared, exponent first, is 64. And 64 minus 3 is 61. Yeah, I can math in my head. Number 9. 12 minus 8, because y is 8, minus 1. So 12 minus 8, I'm doing the left one first, is 4. And 4 minus 1 is 3. Alright, this is the most complicated problem out of these three. So we've got 10y, which means 10 times 8, plus 1 over 8 plus 1. Now, if you remember before, you do the math on the top, you do the math on the bottom, and then you divide your two answers. So the math on the top, we need to multiply before we add. So we get an 80 plus 1 over an 8 plus 1. Need more space. 80 plus 1 is 81. On the bottom, 8 plus 1 is 9. And 81 divided by 9 is 9. And that puts us at the end of the lesson. So what I'd like you to do is answer this question in your summary box. How do you know when to use the left to right rule? So when do you use that rule? Go ahead, pause the video, write your answer. When you're ready, hit play, and we'll go through it together. And here's what I came up with. I said you use the left to right rule when you have more than one operation from the same step in an expression. So if you have more than one parenthesis or more than one multiply divide. And I said you do the left one first. And homework. Homework comes from page 10, numbers 1, numbers 3 through 10, and numbers 20 through 24, which 20 through 24 are actually on page 11. But thank you for watching. This has been lesson 1.2. Have a nice day.